Imagine calling a hotel in Helsinki right now. You want to change your dates, maybe upgrade to a suite, and, I don't know, figure out parking for some oversized vehicle.
Right.
There is actually a 65% chance you are doing all of that completely seamlessly without ever speaking to a human being. And you're not, like, pressing numbers on a clunky phone menu either.
Yeah, you're having a fluid, highly nuanced conversation, and that's with a voice-based AI agent handling that entire multi-layered request autonomously.
It's wild. I mean, if you are an enterprise leader or a CTO evaluating your tech stack, hearing a 65% autonomous resolution rate, that should make you pause.
It absolutely should, because we are not talking about some closed-door pilot program or a tightly controlled tech demo. This is live, production-grade tech operating right now.
Which really begs the question of whether your current AI strategy is already falling behind. So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack this source material. We have AetherLinks Helsinki 2026 Deployment Blueprint.
Yeah, it's a fascinating look at how European businesses are, well, how they're moving away from those basic AI toys from a couple of years ago and stepping into mission-critical systems.
Right, because the era of the experimental 2023 chatbot is, I mean, it's completely dead.
Oh, totally dead. And understanding the urgency of that shift is just paramount right now. I mean, the data shows 82% of users are actively demanding persistent, personalized AI experiences.
They expect the system to actually know who they are.
Exactly. But European business leaders are facing this massive dual challenge. They have to deliver measurable ROI through products like Aetherbot while simultaneously navigating the really strict compliance frameworks of the new EU AI Act.
Yeah, the whole move fast and break things vibe. That simply does not fly in enterprise AI anymore.
No, it doesn't. You need a highly structured map.
Which is exactly what this blueprint gives us. And to understand where we're going, we first have to look at why the old models are just failing businesses today.
Right. The blueprint draws this really sharp line between traditional chatbots and what we now call agentec AI.
Yeah, let's unpack that. It comes down to this concept of, what is it, stateless versus stateful architecture.
That's the one. So traditional chatbots are stateless.
I always think of it like a vending machine. You put your coin in your prompt and you get one snack out. But the machine has zero memory of that transaction.
Right, exactly.
If you want another snack, you have to start the whole process over.
Yeah.
It essentially wakes up with amnesia every single time you talk to it.
And that amnesia is a huge bottleneck for enterprise workflows. So to build on your vending machine thing, modern AI agents are stateful. They function much more like a proactive personal assistant.
Okay, how so?
Well, instead of starting fresh, a stateful agent keeps this continuous expanding context window. It maintains a running ledger of your interactions.
Oh, right, using specialized memory systems like vector databases.
Yes. So it can pull up relevant data from, say, 2 hours ago or even 2 weeks ago without having to reprocess the entire history from scratch.
Wow. So it's not just remembering things. It's actively using that memory to execute multi-step workflows.
Precisely.
I was actually looking at the data from Helsinki's financial sector in the blueprint. They're deploying these agent-based systems in their back office, and they are seeing efficiency improvements of over 60%.
60% is massive.
It is. That's not just a software update. That is a fundamental restructuring of how work actually gets done.
And the mechanism driving that is something called parallel tool calling.
Right, because normally a human takes a complex inquiry, reads it, opens the CRM, types it in, saves it, opens another app, routes it to compliance. It's very sequential.
Exactly, one step at a time.
Right.
But an autonomous agent, it processes the inquiry and generates a data payload that triggers multiple internal APIs at the exact same millisecond.
So it's reading, updating the CRM, routing to a specialist, and flagging compliance all at once.
All at once.
Okay, that makes the vending machine look like an absolute antique. But the blueprint introduces this concept that honestly sounds like a recipe for total organizational chaos.
Are you talking about multi-agent orchestration?
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to have a single, highly capable agent managing back-office data. But what happens when you have an entire organization of them? Like an AI managing the supply chain and a totally different AI managing factory maintenance. Aren't they going to constantly conflict?
That friction is actually the #1 hurdle for CTOs right now. If you just throw autonomous agents into a legacy corporate structure without guardrails...
Total system paralysis.
Right? Exactly. Immediate paralysis. So to prevent that, the blueprint outlines 4 essential infrastructure pillars. The first one is communication protocols.
Which is like a standardized, cryptographically secure language they use to message each other.
Right. And that ties directly into the EU AI Act, because every decision has to be tracked and auditable.
Got it. What's the second pillar?
Resource allocation. Compute power is finite, right?
Ah.
So an overarching system distributes that compute based on organizational priorities. So one rogue agent doesn't just hog all the bandwidth.
Okay, I follow the logic.
Yep.
But let's pressure test this with a real scenario from the blueprint.
Sure, lay it on me.
Okay, what happens when there is a direct operational disagreement? Let's say the maintenance agent analyzes some sensor data and says, we need to shut this machine down for repairs right now to prevent a catastrophic failure.
Okay.
But the supply chain agent knows there is a critical client order due in 3 hours, and it absolutely needs that machine running. Both agents are doing their jobs perfectly, but their directives are completely incompatible.
That is where the third pillar comes in conflict resolution, because agents don't argue the way humans do.
Right, no ego involved.
Exactly, no ego. The architecture embeds mechanisms for them to negotiate using utility functions. They basically calculate mathematical weights tied to the company's master KPIs.
So it's essentially a dynamic scoring system based on risk and reward.
That is a great way to summarize it. So the maintenance agent might calculate that a failure tomorrow costs 100,000 euros. But the supply chain agent calculates that missing the deadline today only costs 10,000 euros in penalties.
Ah, so the orchestration layer compares those scores in real time.
Right, and determines that shutting down the machine today, even though it hurts the immediate supply chain, yields the highest net benefit overall.
And I'm guessing the fourth pillar is what keeps humans in the loop.
Yes, governance integration. It provides the monitoring so human overseers can step in and override that math if they need to.
Let's actually look at how those pillars perform in the real world. The blueprint details this case study with the precision manufacturing company in Helsinki.
The Helsinki factory example, yeah.
Right. And what's wild is they didn't try to build one massive omniscient AI to run the whole building. They deployed a decentralized ecosystem of highly specialized agents.
And that specialization is the core driver of their success. They had a discrete agent just for predictive maintenance. It monitored sensor data to forecast failures, like 2 to 3 weeks before a human operator would even notice a change.
And alongside that, they had a scheduling agent, a quality assurance agent, a supply chain agent. And because they had those communication protocols in place, they actually functioned collaboratively.
The results were staggering.
Yeah, within 6 months, they hit a 28% improvement in on-time delivery.
Plus a 19% reduction in unplanned downtime.
And a 12% boost in first-pass quality. Achieving that without a centralized superintelligence really proves that multi-agent orchestration works.
It does. But, optimizing back-end workflows is really only half the equation here. How these models interact with humans in the real world is undergoing an equally massive shift.
Oh, definitely. We are moving way beyond just text-based interactions.
Which is critical, because if you optimize your logistics, but your front-end customer agent sounds like a robotic script reader, human users are just going to reject it.
Right, the efficiency drops to zero. And the blueprint addresses this by pointing us toward multimodal AI.
Multimodal AI is a massive leap. It's no longer just processing text. It integrates language understanding with visual perception and audio analysis.
Like converting sights and sounds into tokens that the model processes simultaneously.
Exactly. And Helsinki's healthcare sector is a perfect example of this.
Oh, the patient video consultations.
Yeah. They're deploying multimodal agents that don't just act as transcription services. The agent is analyzing the patient's tone of voice for distress, interpreting micro-expressions on the video feed.
And cross-referencing all of that real-time data with the patient's medical history in milliseconds.
Right. It synthesizes all those streams into a clinical assessment for the physician. And the data shows this reduces a clinician's administrative workload by about 40%.
Wow. So the doctor can actually just focus on the patient.
Yes. Applying human empathy and high-level medical judgment while the AI handles the complex data synthesis.
We see that same impact in customer service, too. When enterprises deploy voice-native AI agents, like that hospitality system we talked about earlier, they reduce average handling time by 35 to 45%.
And they do that while actually improving first contact resolution, because a standard text interface can't really tell if a customer is getting frustrated.
Right, but a voice agent analyzes the acoustic properties of your speech. If you're getting mad, it instantly routes you to a human supervisor.
And it hands the supervisor a pre-populated summary of the issue so they can intervene effectively.
Which means the end of those terrible press one for billing phone trees.
Thankfully.
But wait, Analyzing someone's tone of voice or facial expressions, that introduces a massive compliance burden, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You are fundamentally processing biometric data at that point.
Which triggers the absolute strictest tiers of the GDPR and the EU AI Act. You need explicit consent, rock-solid data handling, and it has to be physically embedded into the architecture.
And that regulatory pressure is fundamentally changing how companies procure models. You can't just plug a generic off-the-shelf LLM into your business and expect it to handle biometric compliance and secure back-office orchestration.
Right. And the market data in the blueprint reflects this. 74% of enterprise AI budgets are now going to industry-specific applications, not general infrastructure.
Yeah, the era of the massive one-size-fits-all LLM is definitely fading in the enterprise space.
I kind of think of it like dropping an intern into a massive public library. They have access to all human knowledge, sure, but they have to hunt for the specific book. They get distracted.
Or worse, they just guess the answer when they can't find it.
Right, which is hallucination.
And hallucination is a critical vulnerability. So companies are shifting to what the blueprint calls small task-specific models.
It's like hiring a dedicated researcher who only reads your proprietary data, already knows your filing system, and just focuses on one problem.
Exactly. And they're deploying these specialized models 3 times more frequently than general LLMs. They cost less, they process faster, and the hallucination rate plummets.
This is really the foundation of that AI factory model they talk about. Mature orgs aren't doing one major software rollout a year anymore.
No, they're running continuous development cycles, pushing new specialized models into production weekly.
Using tools like AetherLinks AetherDV for development or EtherMine for strategy, it lets a logistics company spin up an agent just for European route optimization, while a pharma company builds one exclusively for clinical trials.
The central thesis is that generic AI is no longer a competitive edge. Everyone has an API key. True strategy is having a proprietary ecosystem of specialized models.
Okay, but we have to address the anxiety in the room. We're talking about AI factories, churning out agents that handle supply chains, medical videos, 65% of customer service.
The workforce replacement fear.
Exactly. If the AI is doing all this cognitive labor, what happens to the human employee?
It's a huge concern, but the deployment data in the blueprint explicitly counters that narrative. The most successful deployments position these agents as productivity multipliers.
Which sounds great in a boardroom, but what does that mean on the ground?
Well, look at the financial sector in Helsinki. They introduced autonomous agents for risk assessments, but they didn't lay off their analysts.
Right.
Instead, the analysts using the agents processed 3 to 4 times more complex cases with higher accuracy.
Because the agent handles the high-volume data gathering and formatting. It removes the cognitive friction.
Exactly. The human analyst makes the final judgment call using contextual awareness and strategic creativity, stuff the AI just doesn't have.
Plus, from a regulatory standpoint, you kind of have to keep humans involved. The EU AI Act requires an immutable audit log for high-risk systems.
And that compliance has to be embedded from day one. You can't just slap a compliance patch on a multi-agent system right before launch.
No, that leads to super costly reimplementations. You have to design the human-in-the-loop triggers into the core code. Like, if the AI is less than 95% confident, it automatically halts and routes to a human.
Right. And developers are relying on tools like the Claude Agent SDK to handle that, rather than hand-coding low-level APIs.
Because at machine speed, you run into physics problems, like rate limiting. You can't have your AI pinging your CRM 10,000 times a second and accidentally DDoSing your own company.
Yeah, rate limiting and error routing are huge hazards, but modern frameworks handle that, which drastically speeds up the deployment timeline.
Right. The blueprint says a simple agent can reach production in 4 to 8 weeks.
And a complex multi-agent orchestration architecture takes about 4 to 6 months.
Which is remarkably fast to fundamentally restructure your back-end workflow.
If the foundational strategy is sound, yeah.
Okay, we've covered a massive amount of ground unpacking this, synthesizing all of this for the listener. What is your most actionable insight here?
Oh, for me, the defining takeaway is that competitive advantage has fundamentally shifted. It's not about having access to a massive general AI. The future belongs to specialization, building an internal ecosystem of small, highly tuned models governed by EU-compliant frameworks that is the ultimate strategic asset.
Absolutely. For me, my biggest takeaway is the power of the phased rollout. Looking at the Helsinki factory, their success was rooted in restraint. They didn't dump 4 interconnected agents onto the floor on day one.
That would have been a disaster.
Total organizational rejection. They started small, 1 agent for predictive maintenance. They let the workforce build trust with it, mapped out the integration challenges, and only then did they scale up.
Start small, build trust, then orchestrate. I love that. And actually, I want to leave you with a final thought to explore on your own.
Go for it.
We talked about multi-agent systems negotiating resources internally, right? Inside one factory.
And math waits.
Right. But if they're already doing that successfully, how long until entirely disparate enterprise ecosystems do it? Imagine your company's supply chain agent autonomously negotiating contracts and resolving disputes with your vendor's logistics agent.
Wow.
Completely machine-to-machine, in real time, executing complex B2B transactions without human mediation. The infrastructure being deployed in Helsinki today is laying the exact groundwork for that reality.
That concept completely upends how we visualize business-to-business relationships, moving from a stateless vending machine to a fully automated living corporate ecosystem it's a massive paradigm shift. Thank you for joining us as we took this deep dive into the Helsinki 2026 deployment blueprint. For more AI insights, visit AetherLink.ai.